Welcome, everyone. Another episode of this exciting podcast. And I have Sean here today, and Sean is gonna I'm really excited about this myself because we're gonna talk a lot about what it takes to be yourself and bring your best self out, right? Sean has a massive following on Instagram. I think it's like 45,000. He's got way more people following him in different places, Sean and Ben. Um, and there's a lot to there's a lot of influence you have, right? So tell everyone a little background about who you are and what you do, and then we'll go into like how we met, and then we'll crack on basically.
Okay, absolutely. So my name's Sean, and alongside my husband Ben, we run an LGBTQ travel and lifestyle blog called The Globetrotter Guys. It wasn't always our career. I've had a bit of a mixed career up until then, working in accountancy, working in charity, and so on. But it was 5 years ago that we started The Globetrotter Guys on the side, basically. We left the UK and went traveling for 2 years, and at the same time I decided, let's set up a website, let's set up a blog and document our experience as a gay couple, because of course there's lots of different challenges depending what country you go to, and we wanted to put that out there and help other travelers. So set up the website, set up the Instagram, learn a huge list of skills, and it kind of just grew naturally from there. And then after maybe 6 months or so, we could see this has got legs and it could actually be a small business. So yeah, that's where we're at now.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for introducing yourself. We met because we were working for a foundation, the EY Foundation, just so everyone knows. And what it does is it creates a lot of opportunities for people who don't have those kind of opportunities. I was doing some work, young people, by the way. I was doing some work and helping out in the community, and Sean was one of the leaders in that program. And we just met, and it seems like we have some things in common. Like we love to travel, we love to explore, like what's going on inside. We want to make something of ourselves. And this whole podcast is about the life force of that kind of person, right? And the thing I want to make clear is I think everyone is that kind of person. So I don't know why I'm saying that kind of person, but it's a trait that we all have to be a leader, right? And it comes from inside, it comes from somewhere deep inside where you say, I want to be someone that's going to impact others. I want to be someone that's going to make something more of my life rather than just, mediocrity. So I want to hear about your story. Like where do we start? Like, how did you start this whole mission? What was it inside of you? Let's go to that. Like, what was roaring inside of you that said, hey, I want to do something?
That is genuinely such a hard question, because it does take a lot of self-reflection to figure out why it happened, because almost my immediate response to all happened by accident. But of course, that's not necessarily possible, because the amount of work that went into making it happen wasn't an accident. That was driven by something. And I would say the phrase that kind of comes to mind, if I go way back to 5 years ago when I first, I think I might have Googled or gone on YouTube how to set up a website. It was just the concept: if other people can do this, then of course I can do it, because I'm just a human like anyone else. So if they can do it, so can I. So I was like, well, of course I can learn how to set up a website, so I'm going to do that. Of course I can learn how to do photography or do SEO or social media. And I think it was the trait in me, my assumption is always, if somebody else can do it, I can. Just meant that, yeah, I'll do it. And I did. So that was kind of maybe the driver. And also there was part of me that, because I knew we had such a passion for travel in 2011, even further back, we did the same thing. We went off for 2 years traveling, didn't do a blog or anything then, didn't even have a smartphone then, in fact, if you can believe it. And I kind of also had it in my head that I wanted to think about a way to maintain that lifestyle. So it's kind of marrying up a bit of my self-drive and self-belief, a bit of creativity, and a bit of, well, I want to create a lifestyle for me, and maybe this is a way to do it. And it was very much a maybe at the start because I really didn't quite understand how people create that lifestyle for themselves, but I knew it was possible. I just needed to have a go and see what happens.
Yeah, yeah, I love that, because it's like you didn't know how this would evolve. You didn't know what was gonna happen, right? But
No,
something inside you, like you said, just wanted to explore, and you got a bit creative and you had a bit of fun with it. And it was something that you connect to already, right? You love to travel.
yeah,
So what does someone do? Like what if someone has that kind of if they're in that stage, right, where they're like, I like these kind of things. Something is telling me inside to go and explore it. But they have these kind of fears that come up, right? I'm asking everyone these kind of questions. Like if they have these fears or doubts that just blocks them off, what does someone do? What would you say?
hmm. Again, a difficult question. And the reason I think that's difficult is because
Yeah.
I think a lot of it is, and I said it a moment ago, like that self-belief. And I don't know why I have such high levels of self-belief, to be honest,
Mm,
but I do.
yeah.
And I think that's probably one of the key things to think about when you're going to take a leap or take a jump or just try something new. Because if you don't believe that you can do it, that's, in my opinion, probably one of the biggest blockers. I know there's tons of blockers, and you can always make 1,000 excuses at any one point in the year. There's always going to be something. Like right now, for me, you could say, "Oh, what are you doing in the cost of living crisis, going off on this risky journey," things like that. But there's always going to be something. There was COVID or whatever, or you know. Um, so I think I'm just trying to think like how. I guess the question is how can you build up your own self belief,
Mm,
and that isn't a quick thing. I feel like that comes greatly over time, but I think listening to things perhaps like these kind of podcasts or going out and doing research and listening to people's stories can be helpful in your own self-belief, because maybe if you can relate to those people that are being on those journeys, it becomes a bit more tangible, a bit more real, a bit more palatable. And actually, there's a bit of crossover here behind the work of the EY Foundation, working with young people. We show those young people how people got into jobs. And similarly, with anyone at any stage of their career or any stage of their life, if they can see people that have taken risks and gone wrong, or taken risks and gone right, but they are just people like
yeah.
them, then I think that's a really good start to building up your own confidence and thinking, actually, I relate to that person. They're no more or no less special than me. So yeah, I'll have a go, and maybe take
Mm.
some risks that they wouldn't take otherwise, if that makes sense. I feel like I went off on a
Yeah.
bit of a ramble there, but
No, no, that makes complete sense, because what I'm really hearing you say is listening to something inside and then learning from others that have gone through something similar, right? Because I
mhm,
find there's people that we connect to in this world. We've seen maybe they're like somewhere that we want to be, or they're doing something similar to what we want to do. And then you look and you realize, like you said, they're just human. But they're not superhuman. They're just human. And like you, it's been a 5-year process to build up to where you are now. Like someone might see your page and they might be like, wow, like this guy's awesome and he's doing these cool things, he's going to these places. But I think it's so cool when they can see that, yeah, he started somewhere. He started on his laptop making a little website, which you didn't know how to do, right? You just learned somehow.
yeah, somehow I don't know how on reflection, but yeah, we did. Just YouTube was an amazing thing, to be fair.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. What was um what was it like for you in like your younger years, have you always had this kind of creativity and like passion and self-belief, like you said?
I don't know say about creativity. I think what
Mm,
I've gone into is naturally creative, and that's maybe brings that outside out of me more. But thinking about passion and self belief, yeah, it's just always. I think it always has been there, no matter what stage or age I was at. Like I think I don't know, perhaps I always did well at school, just naturally. So maybe it was always as a result of that. Well, yeah, I can do this, I can do that. It just happened, not in like a bragging way. I was just good at exams and things like that. And because there's so much pressure put on that at a young age,
yeah.
perhaps that's going deep, going deep. But maybe that's like part of what helped build up that self belief because everything that I tried, I was like, okay, I can do this, and then carry on to the next thing. And it was always I always just assumed that I could,
Mm,
and I didn't really. Maybe if I'd had more knockbacks, that wouldn't have been the case. But maybe because I haven't had many knockbacks and not being successful at what I wanted to do, it's just allowed me to stay at that level of self belief. If that makes sense.
yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. It feels like there was something, some kind of voice speaking to you inside, right? And I'm curious, as soon as I hear that kind of thing, I'm always curious to know, um, like in terms of spirituality, do you have any specific spiritual beliefs, or tell me about that and how that shows up for you in life?
Not particularly at all. I don't really think about things in that kind of way. I think
Mm,
I just sort of think of my attitude as a person. And I suppose the closest thing that might come to the question is that I just always have the attitude and always say that quite the same sentence often that things always work out for us, like in a really positive way. And today, I always say that and it always does. So that's why, this year, moving away, so for the context, I was doing full-time job and the Globetrotter guys. I'm now leaving my full-time job to go take the risk of doing the Globetrotter guys full-time. Doing that move, I do keep thinking of that sentence that I've said for years. Things always have a way of working out for us. And it's not always like the obvious thing. I can't predict why it's going to work out, how it's going to work out, but something always seems to come along and it always works out. Not without any effort, don't get me wrong. It's always got to put the effort in. It just happened
yeah,
by magic, but it always seems to. So I'm going to hope that is a pattern and that it continues that way.
yeah, that's awesome. That's like people talk about faith sometimes, right? And whether someone's spiritual, religious or not, right? Is that faith inside that you're speaking about, it sounds like, of like, yeah, things work out, things are gonna work out. It's some kind of quiet knowing. And amongst that, there's probably loads of like fearful thoughts and worries as well, right? Like I'm sure there are, but there's this quiet knowing that, yeah, it might be tricky, it might be challenging, but I see that it's gonna work out. That's what I'm
Yeah.
hearing from you.
Oh yeah, definitely. Fill it with confidence, but I never know what to expect. And there is the whole roller coaster. Ask me at a different time of the day, I'll be excited or fearful or panicky or having a complete meltdown. But overall, I will still hold on to this is the right decision to make with where I'm going. I'm just gonna crack on with it, and it will work out.
Yeah. And I think that's a part of like leading your life, right?
Mhm.
Um, you kind of mentioned that there's challenges and it's a rocky kind of road, right? Tell everyone a bit more about that. Because, it sounds great to go and build this stuff that we want and change our lives. I, for sure, have experienced a lot of that rocky road, and I've thought of many times, like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to have an easy life. So tell everyone a bit more about that. How's that showed up for you?
I would say, in terms of the challenges that really come to mind, is as much as I say, and I said at the start, if someone else can do it, so can we. And I do believe that there is so many people that are absolutely smashing it. And I guess, similar to what you get in a lot of workplaces, sometimes we've got that sense of like imposter syndrome, like, oh, are we the experts in this industry? Because sometimes people say that we are, and it's like, oh, how has this happened all of a sudden? And I think, especially when you look at other people and you admire them, and then suddenly you're in the same room as them or being put on the same par as them, it can be quite, I don't know if intimidating is the right word, but it can be a little bit intimidating and make you, I don't want to say doubt yourself, but it kind of makes you doubt yourself a little bit, or that you're just showcasing something that is not quite right. So there's some challenges in that area, and that can be a little bit of a knock sometimes. But then I always come away from those situations and think, well, actually, we're in that room for a reason, and we're with those people for a reason. So we're the only ones questioning ourselves. Nobody else is questioning us. It's just us. So I think sometimes in the moment that can be a bit challenging, but stepping away and kind of bring it back. And I think other challenges and things that just do not go right is constant sense of being overwhelmed with, especially with the industry that we're in, there is so much we could be doing, and it's a bit of a wild west industry. There's no industry standards, there's no rule book, there's no guide, there's no pathway. So it's really, there's a lot of stress about making the wrong decision or doing the wrong thing or spending the wrong time on, or not investing time in the right things, because there's such a long list of jobs, and I could do with an entire team, to be honest, but that's not an option right now, maybe in the future. So that's been a challenge here. Then of course, I mean, the obvious one, travel, COVID. I was like, can we survive this when we're so travel focused? But our response to COVID was to diversify the content that we did, to expand beyond just like LGBTQ travel, and try and think, well, what other topics might our audience be interested in? Write about the best LGBTQ TV shows on Netflix and things like that during COVID. So I guess I was a bit like a dog with a bone. I was like, I'm not letting this go. We're going to carry on and just like diversify our stuff. I guess the other thing is it just being me and Ben on our own. It could be a bit like working in a silo and not being around people and having just to lift ourselves up rather than having other people in your team to lift you up can be quite difficult sometimes as well. And we're quite guilty of both getting a bit overworked and just being, let's just curl in a ball on the sofa and sit down and hide from the world and watch Netflix, but then feel terribly guilty for doing so. And actually, one of our peers shared the same thing a few weeks ago. In fact, about when you're doing your own thing or leading your own business or leading your life, the guilt of taking some time off from that is quite, for me, it's quite big. I find it really hard to relax at the moment because there's no limit to what I can be doing. I feel like I should be doing something at all times. Whereas a regular 9 to 5 job, you get to 5, you know it's over, it's done, it is what it is. You've got nothing more to gain. But I always feel I could be gaining something by doing more. So that's quite difficult not to switch off and have a sense of guilt constantly.
That's a theme that's coming up from every time I speak to someone who wants to like create change or lead their life or lead a business. That's a theme that I'm seeing pop up a lot. Like, when do I stop and how do I slow myself down, right? How do I slow myself down when there's a lot going on? And when you were speaking right at the beginning, I was listening and I got this sense that you can get yourself in these stuck places. I got this sense that you've got this somehow some ability to kind of break free from that. And yeah, okay, like you said in the imposter syndrome thing, like being in a room with people, and that's another theme as well for amongst leaders, like this imposter thing. But you have something which is able to switch it. What is it? Like, what's going on there? If we had to try and explain that in words, I know it might be difficult.
Yeah, that is a difficult, because at risk of giving the same answers to the questions, it does go back to what I said at the start. It's just that my self-belief wins every situation overall. There might be other emotions and feelings that come in the mix, but that will always be the one that I finish on, or the one that's stronger than the rest. So even though I might go through a journey down blah blah, when I can stop and slow down and really think about it, then I can get back to that, because that's the overriding emotion. I'm very logical person, so I find it quite not even, yeah, I find it, I can find it sometimes quite easy to manage my feelings and emotions and step back from a situation, be like, logically, we're here for a reason, so absolutely we should be here, and then move forward with that. I always feel like you've only got so much bandwidth and so much brain space, and like I can't be doing with filling my brain space with like negativity or pessimism or doubting myself. So I just think, well, forget about that. Let's move on and carry on.
Yeah. That's such a great quote, actually. I think I heard that from someone, one of these personal development guys as well. I don't have time to worry. You know, he said that. He's like, I don't have time. I could be spending that on other stuff. I don't have the time and energy to spend it on that. So it's like, no, let's crack on. Let's move on.
Well, yeah, like if something does go wrong for me, if I can change it, I will. If I can't change it or do anything about it, it's not on my list. I don't even want to react to it, even if it's something bad something bad's happened, and most people would react to it, and they would, cause a big fuss of, oh my god, this is so bad. I'm like, well, if I can't do anything about it, I can't give any time to it, because I don't have any time. I need to give time to stuff that I can change.
Exactly. Yeah. So let's talk about this energy that you have, right? And that's another thing I want to ask people. Like, what are the kind of habits or regimes, or I don't know, it could be meditation, it could be exercise, food, whatever, right? Whatever you do that keeps your energy in, the life force. I talk about life force, right? It keeps that life force flowing. It keeps it strong, and it keeps it in this state of like equilibrium almost. What do you do? And I'm not saying anyone's perfect with this, right? But what are the some of the best things that you do as a part of your routine that keep you in that vibrancy?
I don't really know that I do anything massively specific. I think the nature of what we do, there's always something to look forward to. And I think that's a big driver, because if you think about the work that we do, predominantly, yes, we do lifestyle stuff, but a lot of it's travel. So if I know that I'm working towards a proposal to go to an amazing new country, that's a pretty big driver, because that's a real tangible thing compared to, I don't know, compared to working in the corporate world. Sometimes the things that you're aiming for aren't that tangible or aren't that exciting. But I think this specific industry is, and I think a lot of people would say the same. For example, last October, suddenly getting an email to invite us to Curacao for a week in the Southern Caribbean, that kind of thing. The fact that the more I put myself out there, the more emails like that I'm going to get, kind of keeps my energy up. Because if I know I can post more, do my own PR, my own marketing, get our names out there, people are going to notice. If I can get myself on all these conferences and attend them and network and meet people and get them familiar with us, I'm going to get more exciting things, and things that in reality, we honestly, if we look back over the past 5 years, there's so many experiences that we've had that we would never have had if we hadn't have done it.
Mm.
Even looking just like last year. So the final few months of last year were like back-to-back trips and places that really we wouldn't have gone to off our own back. They all came from the work that we do. So that's a big driver. And then in terms of habits that do work for me to make me work, it's probably the standard things that everyone says. It's not going to be anything miraculous here. It is for me having the right space to work in. So like I know it's a basic one, but like if everything's messy around me, I can't work. I need everything
Yeah.
tied first. If I am getting overwhelmed and there's too many things going on in my head, I will go to the gym and run. And that's probably one of the only places that my brain does genuinely stop. Because even if I'm sat on the couch watching TV, I'm still thinking about things. So I think really the only place I stop thinking about things is either going to the gym or I do a lot of like aerial circus classes as well. And when I'm there in the mid-air hanging from a rope, that is the one thing I'm concentrating on. I'm not thinking about anything else. And I think that's really helpful to kind of, I feel like sometimes it cleans your brain or like declutters it.
Yeah.
And there probably is some sort of physiological process going on when you're doing that does genuinely clean your brain.
Mm.
And I know those two things are quite obvious but that's what works most for me.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that, because the first thing you said was, I felt like that was really important to mention. Um, I call it having some kind of purposefulness, right? Something you're moving towards, something that excites you. You're doing something, and then that's creating something else, right? Like you know that if you take these actions, you know, if you get yourself out there, more experiences are possible. And even for anyone, even if you're not a business owner or you're not whatever, like just having something to look forward to, right? I know for me, it helps me to know that I've got something to look forward to or something I'm working towards, right? And it just, like you said, it gives you this fuel. It adds something inside, and it just gives that spark of life.
I
And I
think
also love that you mentioned the stuff around the um yeah, the exercise and stuff, because yeah, when you're moving your body and you're doing stuff like when you're upside down, right? There's nowhere else to go. You
yeah,
have to
yeah,
be in a bit of a focus and you have to be there. You have to be present. You have to be feeling your body, right? Not in your head. Instead, you're actually feeling your body. And
yeah,
a lot of people are talking about this these days of get into your body, just feel the body, even just sense it. That's why yoga is popular.
yeah.
All sorts of things are popular because it's like get into the body, and it almost redirects the energy to say, okay, we're here now, and that's all. We're just here right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, awesome. That's really good to hear. Um, hmm. I want to hear more about like your journey as coming out as gay. Are you willing to share a little bit about that for everyone
Yeah, I
listening?
mean it's not massively exciting or dramatic.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Like some people's
Mm,
stories are much more challenging.
yeah,
But mine was like relatively straightforward eventually, in the sense that family side, friend side, nobody cared. But I would say on the challenging side, show my age. I was an age in my teens before social media and before there was good representation on TV. So in all honesty, you know, growing up right until I was 18, I had no idea really that you could legitimately be gay. I knew gay people existed, but I didn't really know that, you could have a husband, have a life that could actually be a legitimate life, that you could
yeah,
just be yourself. I thought up until like 18 that, oh, you might get with a guy, but actually what you have to do is like get with a girl. Really, that's what's expected. That's the thing.
mm,
Um So I probably didn't even properly come out to myself until I was in university anyway. I remember being in the first year of uni and still saying that I was straight for the first year. I think to everybody else, it was obvious that I wasn't. But I was still trying. I was trying to be. And I guess maybe a lot of people, maybe myself, just kind of discount that and don't see it as a big deal. But actually, trying to be someone that you're not probably is quite exhausting, even if you don't realize it at the time. And it probably does take its toll a little bit, or a lot in some cases. But eventually when I got to the point, because actually I didn't come out to my family until I'd been with Ben for 7 months. So really, that was the main driver to then come out in the end. Because I've been with him, I wanted to tell my family, and it was all fine. There was literally no bother. It was all fine. It was straightforward from that point.
Yeah.
But I guess the journey up until then hadn't been. And then, yeah, that was that basically.
Yeah. No, thanks for sharing. Because like the thing in the world in general, right, is being ourselves. Being ourselves, it just feels different, right? Versus, like you said, trying to be someone you're not. It's exhausting. It's exhausting. And a lot of people, whether they're gay or not, they have these challenges with speaking their voice and expressing themselves, right?
Yeah.
This whole thing of like, I've got something inside me. This feels like my truth, but there's this like shadiness about it or hiding it and stuff like that.
And there's like trying to live up to expectations, and sometimes the expectations that you have don't match the expectations that people do have. But then also kind of relating it back to the work that we do now, travel. There's a lot of like each time you go to a different country, you've got to do a whole situational assessment of who can I be in this country? Is it safe to be in this country? How can I act? Can we be a couple? So there's still always that aspect of potentially playing a character or sussing out whether you can be yourself depending on where you travel to. And I think that's the part why we write what we write and do what we do, to show in some places, we absolutely can go for it, or show in some places it's okay, but be mindful, because we don't want anyone to get into trouble. Not that they should get into trouble, but that is the reality. Some situations are safer than others. So that is still, I guess, comes into everyday life. Comes into it in Manchester, even though I live in the city centre, walk out of my door, sometimes we've been shouted at in the street. So, you've always
what
got
does that feel like? What does it feel like when you're being yourself, right? You're like, I don't know, actually, you tell me, like, are you like walking out and you're proud and you don't care? And that's the first part. Like, is it just like you're everything's cool inside of you? And then the second part is, how does it feel when you face some of this resistance from the outside world?
it doesn't like bother me or like get to me, because my first assumption is to think about the person doing it, and it's kind of sad. It just makes me think that they're a bit, trying to think of a better word, but it just makes me think they're a bit thick and a bit like naive and not, I don't know, it's just I can't imagine myself being in a mindset where, to be honest, no matter what I thought, giving someone abuse on the street or saying something, even if I thought it, I could never actually verbalize it. So I always, my first go-to is a reflection on them, not a reflection on me. So it just always makes me think, well, it makes me think very little of that person, and because it makes me think very little of that person, that's why it doesn't bother me, because I'm like, well, they're an insignificant idiot, for want of a better word. So, but I think that's something that I can do, but I know a lot of people, they can't do that, and they do take stuff to heart. But I'm quite good at knowing who matters and who doesn't matter. and that's why I can buy it off. But I do appreciate that some people don't find that so easy, and if they did experience stuff, it would get to them and it would make them second guess themselves. I mean, don't get me wrong, you know, I still, as much as I want to be out and proud all the time, I'm still assessing where I am, looking what groups are coming, I'll be holding hands on. I don't know, sometimes I still let go of Ben's hand if I see a certain group coming towards us because I'm not totally sure, not totally confident, I can't be bothered with the aggro. So it's a bit of a mixed bag there, really.
Yeah,
That's
thanks for
supposed to answer the
sharing.
question then or not?
Yeah, no, it does. It does. And I've seen your page, right? And everyone listening, check out the page. What is it? The what's the exact name?
For Instagram, it's at the Globetrotter guys.
Yeah. And the same on Instagram, right?
Yeah, Instagram, everything's the same. Everything is the
Yeah.
Globetrotter guys.
Cool, cool. Yeah, I've seen your page and I was getting inspired, man. I was like, I want to be on the beach wearing this kind of outfit, man. This
Yeah.
inspires the hell out of me because you're just being yourself, right? You don't care who's looking. You don't care how you look or whatever. You're just expressing yourself in whatever colors and forms and poses and whatever, right? Really
I mean,
inspiring.
we tried to, but I mean, don't get me wrong, we still get self-conscious sometimes, and still, if there's too many people around, we're like, don't really want to do this photo or this video right now. So even though like it all seems very confident and out there, we do get a bit like, oh, there's too many people. I don't want to do this now. I'll get really awkward speaking on camera, or get really awkward posing for a photo. So even though the end result is always good, that's all people get to see. They don't get to see the
Yeah.
awkwardness or the doubt or the stuff like that.
Yeah, that's such a life lesson, because I think I don't know about everyone, but a lot of people will go through that process of doubt and people are looking and whatever. The voice is there, right? The thoughts are there, but then you're still doing it anyway, right? I think that's what's important about leading your life, being a leader. It's like these things are there, worries, doubts, and whatever, but you're still doing it. Right? It's not going to stop you.
No, I
Maybe it
mean,
has a few
it
times,
takes
right? But
time as well. Like, it does take
yeah,
time. It's not just, no one can
exactly.
assume that they can just do that straight off the bat. They've got to build up to different things, like taking the video stuff. It's like a year and a half before I was willing to speak on camera. That,
Yeah,
which might sound like a basic thing, but now we do it quite freely. So sometimes feel a bit conscious, but for the most part, but yeah, doing it anyway. But some things do take a bit of time.
yeah. No, thanks for being so real and so honest in saying that, because again, like this is probably something people can relate to, that they want to be more confident, they want to use their voice or just whatever, right? Whatever it is. And sometimes it's not this thing of like, oh, just jump and just do it. Sometimes it's like you do little things or you build yourself up, you experiment, you try things, and then you get practice, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
I also watched a good little clip. I forgot what platform it was on the other day, but it was someone trying to make the point of, it was a little about confidence and a little about being self-conscious in public around people. And he was doing really stupid things like lying down in the middle of a crossing and videoing it for like 10 seconds, saying in 10 seconds, everyone will have completely forgot this even happened. So it doesn't matter that I've done it. Even though like you would feel stupid lying down in the middle of a crossing and videoing it while there's lots of people around. But he was making points about, but it's gone from their heads in 10 seconds and no one ever thinks about it again. So I think
Yeah.
trying to get in that kind of mindset, even though that's hard to get there, is good.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. With your page and everything you're doing, what are some like, let me slow that one down. What are some stories that you might have had that have really made you feel like, wow, we're doing some cool stuff out here? Like, and I mean like stories maybe where you've inspired someone and someone sent you a message and you read it and you'd be like, wow, that warmed my heart so much. Because I get them sometimes, and yeah, I'd love to hear about you.
Yeah, no, that's definitely happened to us, especially with some of the content that we've done around countries in Central America, where
Mm.
it's a bit of a mixed bag across depending which country you go to. But we did a little bit of content interviewing a local in, I think it might have been in El Salvador, but then suddenly we got, or maybe it was Honduras. Regardless, we got a nice email from somebody that lived in that country saying thank you so much for bringing attention to my country, showing it in a positive way, but an honest way. Like a random email just pops up, and I think I shared it on LinkedIn, in fact, a few months ago, because it's that kind of thing. Because to put it in context, sometimes I don't know who reads our stuff or people find it useful. I can see statistically on Google
Yeah.
numbers and how many people see it, but not the emotional response. And you're not going to find out that emotional response unless someone messages you. But when we get messages like that, it kind of gives validity to me. It means something. It makes it feel even more worthwhile because it gives me the confidence that actually this does have a positive impact on other people. Obviously has a positive impact on us, it's our work. We're passionate about it, but ultimately we are creating stuff for other people to use or people to take as resources and so on. So getting those messages is good. We've also, I think, one other example that went really well, in fact, was we went on the world's largest gay cruise for the first time, maybe 4 years ago. And we had a lot of our own preconceptions, a lot of our own fears, a lot of our own like self-conscious things like, oh my God, it's going to be quite a terrifying environment. And then we wrote an article afterwards from our perspective of how we felt, but what the reality was in a very honest and candid way, not trying to be too glossy or anything, just this is what it is. And that was just really well received then. And the second time we went on the cruise, we had people come up to us and say, I've come on this and I'm experiencing it because of what you wrote. Otherwise, I wouldn't have booked it. And now I'm having this amazing experience. Thank you for writing that. And thank you for giving us the confidence to just go for it. Because that's the place that we were trying to write it from. So yeah, we have had a few really nice experiences like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. It does something inside, right? When you get that kind of those messages or whatever, you realize, I know for me anyway, I realize, wow, just these little things I'm doing are making some impact, right? Someone reads this article, it might actually change that person's life forever, right? They've just stumbled upon your article, or they've come to listen to one of my talks or meditations or whatever, and something shifted just because you or I or any human in this world decided to step into this passion that they have, right? It's pretty amazing.
I know it is like the power. Well, and obviously it's got power. It's got either way, but the power of social media and blogs and websites can be good. Obviously, it can also not be good. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of positives that can come out of it in that context.
Yeah, yeah. What's one of the most what's one of the things that surprised you the most? Maybe it's an experience that you've had, maybe it's, I don't know, something that's occurred that you just did not expect to happen. Maybe like the top thing, or even the first thing that comes to mind.
I mean, the first thing that comes to mind that really in our journey of setting up the Globetrotter guys and everything that we've experienced is the first big, I mean, it must come to mind for a reason, but the first big brand partnership we got, because it was in the first 6 months of setting up the website, which to me seems ridiculous to go from 0 to 6 months later. We were in Brazil and we got an email from the social media manager at Celebrity Cruises, and they wanted to bring us across from Brazil back to Rome and put us on a 10-day cruise along the Mediterranean to celebrate Pride at Sea. And I just thought it was spam. I thought someone was trying to scam us, didn't believe it.
Yeah.
But And then when it did come to light that this is legit, this is real, we were just, to be honest, floored. I'm not a very like, don't get massively excited about stuff, but I was bouncing around the room, and it takes a lot for me to bounce around the room because I simply couldn't believe what was happening. And when he said something that surprised us or shocked us, that to me just immediately came to mind because it seemed ridiculous. Like, it seemed ridiculous that in such a short space of time something like that was happening. And it just kind of told me you must be doing something right. And yeah, to just be, neither of us could believe it. It just seemed, that's what I said, it seemed like a scam, but it wasn't. And you know, a few weeks later we were on the helipad off Celebrity Reflection raising the pride flag for them, which again just didn't
crazy.
seem like it could be a reality. So that really did surprise us.
It's insane, you know, these things you can't predict, right? You can't plan for that. You can't make that happen. You can't force that to happen. You know, there's this whole like let's push, let's take actions, let's do stuff. But then things like this somehow happen in the world. And of course, it's a result of you taking those actions and doing stuff. But you didn't directly say, I'm going to get this experience.
No,
somehow that experience came to you, right? And I think it's really important for people to kind of like have a understanding or a realization of that power, right? Of this unplanned stuff can happen, this exciting stuff that you don't expect. You can do your best, but then these exciting things just happen from nowhere, right?
From nowhere, but also it's a bit of a butterfly effect because obviously there's been some effect, some domino effect or something that's led that person to finding our name, whether we'd managed to do SEO properly. So when they've gone onto Google and they've typed in gay travel bloggers from the UK, we've come up, or whether we're doing something right on social media. We didn't know what we were doing right at that point. We were pretty clueless. We were all over the place. We still are sometimes. But yeah, we could never have predicted that. It wasn't a goal at the time. It was just chaos at its best, I guess. That led that to happening.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's like being in your highest vibration and doing things, trying things. And then, like you said, somehow things that you've done, maybe like months ago, or whatever, have connected with something else and someone else who's looking for something, and then they just connect.
Yeah.
And it just happens, right, in life.
It's like networking, isn't it? You never know, or you don't always know who's mentioned your name to a certain person or who's shared you or who's, you just don't always know. But it's, if your name goes to the right person, it can go out to 10 more people and grow exponentially. You've got to put yourself out there in the first place. Allow yourself to be found, allow these things to come to you.
Wow. So we're getting to the end of the episode. It's been enlightening for me, actually. And then one thing I want to ask you, I asked someone else this last time, and it might be a bit of a curveball, right? Curveball question. What is love as an energy? So not just like you love someone or you love your parents, or your partner or kids or whatever. What is just love as an energy that you experience? How would you describe it in your own words? Right? There's no right answer. It's just what comes up for you.
Yeah, that's definitely a curveball question. I feel like it's like a philosophical question. Like I needed a degree to answer this.
Or like as an experience, right? Like what do you experience when you feel love? Like, how would you describe it to someone without it being a theory?
I mean, certain words are coming to mind straight away, like contentment, fulfillment, a bit of lightness as well. Like those three things come to mind, but it's hard to describe something intangible because it is just a feeling, and I'm now describing a feeling to you by using other feelings. But yeah, and I think when I say the lightness, as in feeling, kind of gives you maybe like a bit of a breathing space to do more and be more. And I think that's save me repeating the same words, but I think that all those three words that I've just said kind of link into each other, because if you are feeling at ease and content and fulfilled, it allows you to do more. So maybe in the context of this discussion, that is quite an important aspect to think about.
Yeah, exactly. And everyone listening, I'd ask you to ask yourself this question: what is love as an experience, as an energy that moves through you, right? You mentioned things like lightness. Yeah, I can definitely relate to that, like feeling light, like almost playfulness, almost like a bit of a joy that moves through, right? Because I think that's important to all of this stuff, to wanting to create something in your life, wanting to connect to other humans, right? Having a relationship. If there's that lightness versus like this darkness and doom and gloom that's just possessing you, right? Which happens to everyone as well, right?
Yeah,
But if there's this lightness, this love, I feel like all of these missions that we're on to create community, to create an impact, it feels like it supercharges it almost.
I guess a nice way to describe it would be like less friction. It's an enabler. It allows things to just glide easier. Whereas if you're like the opposite, then you'd be kind of held down and not moving quite as easy. It kind of reduces
Definitely.
friction.
I love that.
Yeah. But yeah, definitely a tough question to finish on.
I know. Cool. No, thanks for your time. And I'll give a highlight of what I learned. I learned from this that we have thoughts and doubts and fears or whatever, but to let out that self, be yourself, right? I think that's the summary of what I'm getting from this. Just be yourself, even if you have doubts. Like, people will look confident or whatever, and you'll see it, but there's probably those few seconds where they question themselves, right? And that's okay. I think it's really okay and normal to have that. But as long as you get to that place where you're expressing yourself, you're being yourself, you're taking the actions, whatever, you're being that leader. So thanks for sharing that with us. I think everyone listening is going to really get something from this. Your listeners, anyone else that just stumbles upon this, I think they're going to get something from this, because what you've done and the community that you're leading, yeah, like you said, you're getting people message you, and it's inspiring people. So yeah, I love what you're doing, man. I'm inspired as well.
Thank you. And thank you for having me.
Yeah. Cool. Is there anything else you want to say before, like anything else that you're up to right now, or something that you want to mention before we finish?
I mean, in terms of up to right now, like I mentioned, this is just a big turning point in that I'm moving from doing a full-time job and the Globetrotter guys to quitting that full-time job and going and taking the risk of not knowing where my next income's coming from, and just putting everything into it from February onwards. So that's really the big thing on my mind right now. So in terms of specifics and things coming up, hopefully a lot.
Yeah, I love that. That's such a little way to excite people to go and check out your page. I invite everyone to check out what you're doing, especially since there's gonna be a lot of things coming soon. Check it out, and the Instagram page is also very inspiring. Like I said, I saw your photos and I was like, hey man, I wanna wear these outfits, and just, yeah, this looks fun, man. So I love what you're doing.
Thank you.
Cool. All right, we'll leave it there. And everyone listening, send me a message, or you can send Sean a message if there's anything that you were inspired by from this episode, any questions, anything that we've talked about that you can relate to as well. Because I'm sure either of us would be happy for you just to ask us anything, or just, whatever. just feel free to share with us. Cool. We'll leave it there and catch us on the next one.